Florida is not just flourishing, it is just the foundational place for the future of America. I firmly believe that.
Newport Beach is literally perfect. I think it is the most perfect place in the country. Why? Because it's ran by Republicans. It's extremely safe, clean, good families. Most people are Republican, conservative, Christian, all these different things.
In Florida, they get it, and people are choosing to change their lives. That's something I do tell people, whether it's Florida, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Nevada, whether it's Texas. I know it's hard to leave family, and it's not for everybody, right? But there are options, and you don't have to stay in it and stay miserable and pay high taxes and stay really, really cold up in the Northeast.
I just love it here so much. I've never felt more American than just listening to that appraisal of American states by Americans.
All right, everybody, this is Actual Friends. I'm Dave Rubin, and you may recognize some of the other people in these boxes. As always, we've got Russell Brand and Sage Steele. And because this is not a DEI show, we don't believe in that BS. We booted the lesbian. That's right, Jillian Michaels is not here today. We're not having any of that. And we brought in a good old-fashioned straight white woman, Emily Wilson, a.k.a. Emily Saves America. Jillian is just out of town at the moment. That was the whole point of the show, is that we're all doing different things at different times, sometimes in hotels, sometimes in our studio on laptops for some reason, and all sorts of stuff. So first off, a big welcome to Emily, our new actual friend for the week. Emily, how are you?
I'm great.
Except that you live in Los Angeles, and it's a very weird place, and we don't know why you're there, and we feel bad for you.
That's it. I could go on I will defend Los Angeles till the day I die. That's a whole nother subject we can get into.
Well, we will see what happens. All right, so the way we do this show is we each host 15 minutes of it and see what happens. I should also note that why are you all very chesty and showing a lot of cleavage here? And I feel very conservative.
Cleavage?
I'm going to next time.
I don't have
Can I get something? Maybe do I have a kimono or something? Russell Brand, I think you're going to take it away today.
Dave, thanks very much for the welcome. It's nice to meet you, Emily and Sage. It's always fantastic to see you. The story that I wanted to bring your attention to is a story that we're all familiar with. It's Joe Biden's sad announcement that he has cancer, which, of course, was greeted appropriately by Donald Trump with the kind of greetings that remind you that basic conviviality and humanity is always enjoyable. The reason I wanted to bring it to you is because it's an interesting way of charting the way that information is released. Many people are discussing now Biden's observable cognitive decline and the way that the media had that with Jake Tapper, who we covered last week, even having the audacity to release a book saying The Inconvenient Truth, my hard work on discovering what we in Britain would call the bleeding obvious. Now, some of the things I think we might see emerge over as this story plays out are, one, it being used as a reason not to properly assess and appraise what happened with regard to Joe Biden's cognitive decline and the likelihood that it indicates that certainly more clandestine forces are involved in the governance of your country. Two, hopefully it can be an opportunity for us to acknowledge mortality and the kind of ideas that are out of sight and out of mind. I thought it was pretty beautiful, that conversation you had, Dave, with Scott Adams, who has a comparable diagnosis. He sort of journalistically revealed that it's likely that Biden had received his diagnosis long before it became public knowledge, but also he exhibited a great deal of humanity, humility, and a lack of grandiosity when talking about his own mortality, Dave, and I thought that you handled that really beautifully as a side note. First of all, let's have a look at this clip from 2022 where Joe Biden, in customary fashion, sort of uses weird, folky, homespun language. He seems to be talking about his windshield when the piece begins, but he seems to inadvertently reveal that he's suffering from cancer, and certainly knowing about it in 2022 would be likely if it is the type of diagnosis that most people agree that it is. Let's have a look at that.
It had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
Sage, that seems to be a revelation that Joe Biden must have known a couple of years before he had cancer. How do you feel that this is being handled? Do you think it will be exploited in order to mask the ineptitude and likely corruption of the Biden administration? And how do we manage the necessary humanity and love for people that have received a diagnosis like that?
Every single expert doctor that we have heard speaking on a multitude of platforms since this news broke is like, this absolutely is not a new diagnosis. He has likely had this for many, many years. So we can only assume, and I think it is safe to assume, that they knew, they just did not communicate that to us. How many times throughout the last, I'd say 2 years of the Biden administration, was his health and his cognitive ability, all of the above, brought up in those press briefings? And every single time, Karine Jean-Pierre said, he is fine, he is fine. And what did we do? We asked if they would share those reports. That's what's interesting to me, is they never did. We asked and asked and they never did. So to me, they were hiding something. And I understand it, because it is cancer and it's private. But when you are the commander-in-chief and the leader of the free world, you owe that to us, that complete and utter transparency. I will say, prostate cancer, aside from skin cancer, is the number 2 most common cancer for men. If you don't, most of the time you don't die of it. Many times men die with it, but not of it. My father has 2 cancers. Prostate cancer is one of them, and it was the good cancer until it spreads. And my father's has spread right now. It's behaving. So I think I'm disappointed, because I care about every commander-in-chief, regardless of whether or not I like him. And the fact that we weren't aware of it, did it potentially affect other things with him? I don't know. But I do think, and this is where I'll end, we can have empathy for the diagnosis, and we should, as human beings, right? And at the same time, be disappointed in the fact that they did not communicate that to us. We are owed that as the American people. So both can exist: frustration, disappointment in their decisions to not share, because he had to know, going back to that clip, and probably well beyond, and also having the empathy.
What excellent insights from Sage there, and judicious use of the term of and with, because you can die of COVID or you can die with COVID, something that we were invited to forget for a couple of vital years. Before we get to Emily Wilson, who many are calling our lesbian upgrade, or an upgrade from lesbian is the terminology that
she'd make a primo lesbian. Come on.
That's to ensure that our many beloved LGBTQ plus viewers feel well served. Dave, I know that you're going to have very particular and specific insights when it comes to the complexity of Biden's revelation, the medical diagnosis, the way it relates to his cognitive decline, and the way that the media have handled it, in particular the likes of Joe Scarborough with his endless sharp as attack technique.
Yeah, well, first off, I think you already served the community with your open shirt there. But as for Biden and all of the rest of it, I agree with what Sage said there in terms of, like, you have to look at, like, the human part of this and then the political part. Like, if we're all so hard-hearted at this point, where even if someone disagrees with you 100% on 100% of the issues, that you can't have sympathy or empathy for someone that is likely going to die fairly soon at this point from this disease, that we will all be confronted with one way or another, whether it's cancer or whether it's a cognitive problem. As I talked about last week, we've all had family members involved in this stuff, and, like, it's going to come for us one way or another, whether it's the of or the with, right? So that's one part. And then there's the political part, that because the world is just so filled with lies right now, I think it makes it hard for a lot of good people to have empathy, because they're just like, oh, here's just another lie. So then the good part of them just kind of gets, like, enveloped by just, like, fighting back against the BS. But, Russell, to the clip that you just showed, that's from 2022. And I remember playing that on my show. And what I said was, oh, Joe Biden just said he has cancer, but don't worry about it, guys. That's just because he has dementia, because he didn't even know what he said. So is it true that he knew he had cancer back then and accidentally said it? Did he not have cancer and accidentally said it? Did he have dementia? And there's so many layers of the nonsense as it relates to all of this, that's what is kind of put on us as functioning people trying to make sense of all of this. All of that aside, I'm not a fan of the guy. The administration was absolutely horrible from top to bottom, but I definitely do have empathy for a situation. What I don't have empathy for is Dr. Jill Biden or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or any of the people that were around him that ran cover, and I would include Jake Tapper in that situation.
You have
Emily.
to.
Well, isn't Jake Tapper only coming out now and apologizing because it literally benefits him for his book tour, which is also evil? I pray for Biden. I hope he gets better. It's sad. Also, I think he's not a great person and he's done a lot of evil. In no world do I believe his medical staff is better than the doctors I go to. So yeah, this was hidden. I think the most frustrating thing is the fact that Americans have been gaslighted for so long. We would see videos of him on stage. He looks like a Roomba. He doesn't know where he's going. And every single video that came out and every weird thing he said when he would mix up his kids and he didn't know which one was dead, which one was alive. He's telling stories that never happened. All they would do is gaslight the American people and say, oh, the right-wing media is lying. They actually made those are actually AI images. And what's so frustrating is at the end of the day, I'm like, who's going to be held responsible? Because it should be the left-wing media. It should be his doctors. It should be the people around him. It should be thousands of people held accountable for this. And I'm like, I'm not going to hold my breath, but I think it's crazy. And what's insane right now is watching liberals on TikTok wishing cancer and death upon him. And other liberals have to be like, yo, this is not a good look for us. And I'm like, not a good look. Not a good look no matter who it is.
Can I ask a question? Do we know for sure? The Biden White House said he hadn't been tested for prostate cancer since 2014. Is that true?
So that apparently that's what they're saying. And I've heard some doctors say that at some point over 70, you kind of stop testing for this. But I also heard the complete reverse. I've heard from Dr. Drew and many other doctors that I've talked to this week.
Not when you're the president of the United States.
So not when you're right. And you clearly have some other issues. So that's, to me, we know that nobody ever pays the price for anything, right? Like Fauci still gets his $400,000 a year government salary. No one ever pays the price, or the buck never stops with anybody. But to me, the interesting one here would be what happens to his doctor, because the doctor either was completely, put aside Biden and what Biden knows or doesn't know or anything else. The doctor was either completely negligent or was involved in a major cover-up. So the best way you could look is that he's just an idiot. He's a bad doctor, in which case he should lose his medical license, or he absolutely was involved in a scandal. And if he now comes out and says, well, it turns out that I did tell some people that he had this prostate cancer and it was, the Gleason score was going up and it was going to go to the bones and all these things. And then they hit it. Well, then he might get a get out of jail free card because he then did his job. So at some point don't you feel like at some point they all have to turn on each other? Because this is so specific.
They do. They always do.
But there's no way in hell you stop testing the older you get. I know this from experience. You actually test more. Like, it's insane, and I think it's a lie and or negligence. It's all bad.
I like that Dave Rubin's pursuit is who are we going to talk to investigate the nature of the duplicity, and we've found a way of trapping them. Either they're lying about A or B. And that Sage's concern is that Joe Biden wasn't having enough rectal examinations or prostate checks. But I happen to know that Joe Biden's
It's a blood test, Russell.
Primarily, you got to go. You can't check the anus remotely. That has to be done digitally. And Joe Biden's anus is entirely given over to storage terms and plans for Hunter Biden. He uses that cavity almost as a fifth pocket. There's no way that he could have regular prostate examinations with young Hunter in the household requiring that amount of smuggling and that amount of privacy.
Welcome to the show, Emily.
You'll only get that kind of reporting here. The legacy media, that for all their haughtiness and pomp and prurience, reported on Joe Biden's decline in this manner, forgetting that in the modern media age, we have the ability to compare what they were saying then with what they're saying now. We did that last week with Jake Tapper, and Megyn Kelly did an incredible job of using actual journalism against Tapper in the week. Here we see Joe Scarborough, in a sense, betrayed by his own former self. Let's have a look at it.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. So I said that this was Biden at his best.
Sure.
That's what I saw. That's what other people saw. I was obviously wrong. So I'm not sure what my takeaway is here.
What should his takeaway be, Dave?
Well, first off, the guy that they flashed to there is Alex Thompson. He's the apparent co-author of the book. And I've never seen anyone in the history of media that has been happier to be on a book tour and never be asked a question, because Tapper is just getting hit over the head left and right. And he's just like, oh, I'm not going to get a question this time. It's complete and utter absurdity. And you're totally right. And I every time I talk to you, Russell, I somehow bring up that incredible appearance you had on Real Time when you were going off on Morning Joe and just the fraud that the entire thing is. But like, for that guy to be like, F you, if like, we have eyes, we have ears. We're not from the future. That's what I always say about this. How did we all get this right? And everyone in mainstream media got it wrong. It's only because we're decent human beings who pay a little bit of attention to this stuff. And it's also the smugness of that guy. It's like you're so smug in the original lie, and then your mea culpa. It's not even a mea culpa is an honest assessment of like, hey, like if he had been like, man, you know what, I really did get it wrong, and the truth is, I think Donald Trump is evil, and I wanted the Democrats to win. Then you could maybe be like, all right, I get it. But instead, he's like, well, it's what I saw, and it's like, dude, there's so much bullshit here that we ain't got time for it.
Well, that sound is an indication that it is indeed time for me to hand over to Emily Wilson from Emily Saves America. It seems that we can't trust old media, and emergent new voices and forces like yours, Emily, are precisely what's required if people are going to get any access at all to authentic information. I can't wait to hear your spot.
Well, okay, guys.
A lot of pressure.
I just want to say one thing, even just like all politics aside. To your point, exactly what you said, it's like the continuous gaslighting of American people is extremely frustrating. And then on top of that, it's just the fact that I would have so much respect for these people, and so would the people I know who aren't even in politics, if they would just say they're sorry. Not even they lied, but they were wrong. If we could bring that back on either side of the party, I think the right does a better job at it. There would be so much more trust in the media, and it would also make me not despise these people and make me see them as humans. And I think the world would be in a little bit better place.
Emily, really quickly, can I just say thank you for that? I so agree. And I was thinking when Russell was ending, like, we should come up with a list of people who absolutely owe us an apology, because they're all people who were the biggest gaslighters, and just how Scarborough did it there. Let's come up with a list of who it would make us feel better if they apologize. We won't like
it. Does make us feel better. And it matters. Like when someone you love or you look up to, or someone is like, hey, you know what? I'm genuinely messed up. Like, how much better as humans? Because we all are humans at the end of the day, even though I think some of them are lizards. Yeah. And it's just like, we do feel better. And these people need to be humans. Yes, have some humility, and also have some self-respect at the end of the day. Being like, I messed up. I'm not perfect. We all mess up. But it's just frustrating as a normal person to watch this. But
I will let you go here, but you're so right, because when someone wrongs you in your own life, when you have a friend who has wronged you, who lied to you or didn't show up when they were supposed to be there, or whatever it might be, the simple apology, you almost always let it go, right? No one wants to hold on to hate. No one wants to hold on to anger. So a simple apology is the easiest thing. That's why the Scarborough thing was so awful. He's acknowledging it and then lying in the acknowledgement. That's the screwy part.
And that's why we have hatred for these people. And we don't want to burden that with ourselves, but it makes them so easy to hate. That's why, if anyone, I like Trump. I like that he's just kind of ridiculous and funny, and it's almost a little bit relatable. So with everything going on with the South African president.
What would it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the president. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here.
We have thousands of stories talking about it,
sure.
And we have documentaries. I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure, we will.
Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you.
Never be scared to kill. And revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
I made a couple notes because I thought it was really interesting. So he signed the law allowing land seizures without compensation. White people are 7% of the population, but hold about 3/4 of the farmland. And he's like, we're not releasing statistics on race crime. But then the African Farmers Union were saying the murders between 1990 and 2017, 80% were all white. And as you guys saw, I think they were so used to dealing with Biden. Everyone's so used to dealing with Biden, who's not there and is going to give you whatever you want. We saw with Zelensky and Ukraine and everybody. Everyone walked into America, got taken advantage of. He never said anything. I think they were still maybe assuming it was going to go that way. And then obviously Trump was like, let's go ahead and put the lights off. Let's roll the footage. And you guys are absolutely wrong. And then I think I saw clips of Elon Musk and he looked very angry. I'm sure this is something he's extremely passionate about. And I just was like, so how are you going to deny that? How are you guys going to deny the clips? And he's right when he was saying, let's not take old school racist laws and all these things and then continue to put them into place today. Being like, oh, you have to have 30% of, African people at this company here, this company there. Every company around the world, it should just be like, who's the best? Who's the best at that company? And I think, it's just crazy. I don't even know how, you can just sit there while footage is playing of them being like, let's kill these people. And then they're like, well, we have free speech. It's like, yeah, well, we do too in America. Okay, you guys aren't the only one, but we can't have Trump up there being like, hey, let's just kill them all. Let's just kill some white people. It's crazy to see, but I'm so glad that they stepped into that room with Trump and the footage was rolled. So I'd like to hear what you guys think about that as well.
I feel that Russell should go first because I know he is for different laws for different people of different races. So why doesn't he take it away?
That is my main policy, and I'll talk you through it. Although, actually, because I'm English and because of the age I am, I remember when Mandela was released from prison that somehow he and the architects of the new South Africa, and this is me just remembering what I saw through the eyes of a child, my own eyes, let me clarify, because there's maybe some reptilian adrenochrome drinkers out there that are able to utilize and puppet the undead that they keep apparently in their underground cellars. I remember thinking that South Africa are going to have to somehow manage what's been exploitation, imperialism, colonialism, brutality from the British and then subsequent administrations supported by the British when they liberate and return Africa to the native and indigenous people there. It seems that the pendulum always swings around a little before settling into something we could at least agree is a universal and moral way of handling demographics and institutional power and corruption and history and pain and suffering. I know that on this show we'll focus on the hypocrisy of the left that are outraged, that are indifferent to the suffering of this minority group in this in this weird context and instance. And I think that's a fair point. But just because of, as an English person, I kind of remember all of that reporting on South Africa at that time. And I feel like Britain does have and has contributed to world corruption and exploitation so significantly. And it's not a sort of a mad lefty point to make. You don't need to go on making amends forever, but there does need to be some kind of reformation, some sort of negotiation. Otherwise, we're not extending the kind of humanity that we want from Joe Scarborough in his apology, or the humanity that acknowledges that whether it's Scott Adams or Joe Biden, if someone's got cancer, we've got to have some human resources. So I think it's really mad and definitely hypocritical to see all them murder the white folks kind of videos, but I just do remember the level of suffering that's embedded in that land. Where does it go? Where does it go, Sage?
Yeah, I don't know. First of all, when you tweet about a story like this, the fire emoji is all I could think of with how Donald Trump handled that. Have we seen that before, you guys, in the Oval Office?
I mean, it was like, where's the popcorn, man? You're showing us a movie.
Savage. I would have paid money to sit there and watch it. And I just looked up his name to confirm it. Cyril Ramaphosa, I think it is.
Yeah.
The South African president. When you see him smiling and laughing, and all of a sudden Donald Trump says, yeah, turn down the lights. And he's like, ha, ha, ha. And it's like, oh crap, yeah. What is happening here? To be a fly on the wall there. Incredible. At the end of the day, it's so cliche. Hate is hate. Is hate. Racism is racism. I've heard before, Black people can't be racist. BS. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. We can't pick and choose what racism means based on where it is, where they're from. And guess what? Every single person's opinions are based on their experiences. So I think that's where we have to start. And I respect it to an extent. But at the end of the day, I love that Donald Trump did that, if nothing else, to educate. Because I don't know how many people were aware of that stuff being chanted in South Africa. So culturally, fine. But when you're dealing with our country, when you're in our country. We've seen the hatred. Unfortunately, it's gone to another level over the past couple of days with what happened in Washington, D.C. and the Israeli embassy and the murder of those two brilliant young people. It's heartbreaking. Hate is hate is hate, and it must be called out. Who else would have done what Donald Trump did there? We need more of it. You can't pick and choose when it's convenient for you.
Yeah, on the Trump side of this, I mean, it was incredible what he did to turn off the lights and throw to the video and then literally have documents in his hand showing headlines of the murdered people was just like, that's Trump at his best. I mean, that explains, in some ways, it was almost the best ever example of what Trump is. Not only is he always directionally right about what the issues are, or at least most of the time, but then he understands the media component. And I feel like that was just like a new tool that he pulled out of the kit right there. So that was incredible. But to Russell, to your point, you can't solve past discrimination with current discrimination. And interestingly, I had a guy by the name of Rob Herzog in the studio just this afternoon. It's going to be up on Saturday. And he is a South African businessman, an entrepreneur, and investor. I had him on in London in February, and that video that we did talking about what's going on with the farmers in South Africa went crazy viral. Elon tweeted it twice. South Africa was then the top trend on Twitter for a day because of it. And he comes from a family that benefited from apartheid, as he described. He has a 5-generation white family in South Africa that grew up with butlers and with, living in gates. And he does not deny any of those things. Absolutely. Interestingly, what he said was that, when apartheid fell and the regime fell, basically, so now we're talking post-Mandela, when it fell, that there was sort of like a coalition government that was trying to deal with how do you heal these things? Because they knew you can't just go from all of this separation to like magical utopia, as if that exists anyway. And what he described was they really did have it for a while. There was unbelievable investment because the whole world was like, oh, we defeated apartheid. So then there was all this investment into South Africa. It's an incredibly beautiful country, actually. So there was all this reason to build and all of this stuff. And then unfortunately what happened, and this is where he kind of connected it to what's going on with us in the United States, is then the kind of grifter class comes in and they're like, oh, we see all the history and the wounds and everything. So they just don't let go of the past. And then because of that, it now has stoked a new generation of racial tension. He also did connect the fact that part of the stuff as it relates to the farmers is not exactly all racial. Now, a lot of the farmers happen to be white, but what he said is South Africa has now failed as a state in so many ways that part of what's going on with the farmers is just that they don't live in the cities, and because they're out there farming on their own land, there just aren't services to protect them anymore. So if you don't have multiple fighting age men at your farm, you most likely are going to be attacked. Then he did connect it to the fact that they do often rape the women and they torture them. So there is some likely racial element to it. He's not dismissing it, but it's a little bit of a geographic thing, not just a purely racial thing. So there's so many layers here, but it does connect to what's going on in our country in that no one denies that slavery was horrible. No one denies that obviously apartheid in their country was horrible. But if your answer is, okay, so now let's discriminate against Asians because they succeeded in America or Indians, it's like all you will do is breed the racists of the future. Because if there's a young Asian kid out there that can't get into the school he wants because he's being discriminated against, that's the easiest way to make a racist.
By the way, there's so much, unfortunately, I have to talk about it because they're crazy and they come after me all the time. This like white nationalists, like small group on the right that I cannot stand. And even I had to say something. I was like, this group that is like, we relate everything to Black people and Jews and all this stuff. And I finally had to be like, I am so sick of you guys failing in life and being losers and blaming it on everybody but yourself. I can assure you the random Jewish person walking down the street is not responsible why you live in your parents' basement. It is so exhausting. And I hate that a lot of those accounts get so much tension. But even I had to be like, you guys are ridiculous. Like, this needs to stop. It's such a bad look, especially when they claim to be on our team. And I was just like, enough
Well,
of
it's
all this,
always,
you
you know,
guys.
if you're looking for a group to blame, like it never
Yeah.
is going to end well. Like maybe you got to get out of your basement. Like
Yeah,
that
blame
just isn't.
everybody but yourself. I go, I can assure you, whoever's down the street, the synagogue is not why you failed, but enjoy if that, you know, exhausting.
The tension that I feel is between recognizing our personal responsibility for our own spirits and nature, that all of us have to undertake a kind of, in my case, like a repentance and a turning to Christ. And I recognize that's not the path for everyone. But also, we do live in a cultural context. And I completely agree, actually, Dave, with your brilliant analysis and citing of your own guest. It was really, really well. I really understood it differently by the time you'd stopped talking. But then I thought, what's my personal responsibility then as someone who participates in media? If what we're fundamentally saying is that our function is to deliberately take the role of people that we would oppose or love thy enemy, rather than that's the only way to achieve conciliation, rather than a continual shifting in power. I loved it when you spoke about South Africa having some cohesive era, and it reminds me, weirdly and perhaps less consequentially, that apparently in the UK, everyone, when the first Windrush wave of immigration happened, the white working class and black populations were not at odds. They shared like music and culture and got along. And then various groups infiltrated, in this case from the nationalist right, and created racial tension in that group in exactly the way that Dave's saying was agitated in South Africa. And I loved the acknowledgement that when talking about apartheid, America are on some level resolving their own relationship with race and slavery. I didn't see that at all. That really helped me understand. But it's your item there, Emily, so I'll hand it back to you because I did hear that noise.
Okay, so this is so funny. I saw a comment yesterday. It's a little lighthearted. I feel like this was a little heavy. Normally, I'm not a part of heavier, more serious things. But this girl I follow recipes on TikTok, and this girl was making recipes, and it was so funny. It related to the race stuff. She was like, "Oh, I love these like roll-ups," and someone was like, "That's a taquito," and she was like, "I got in trouble last week for calling it a taquito because it's cultural appropriation," and I was like, "Okay, there's a difference between appropriating something and the whole point is we're supposed to be a melting pot and appreciate everything in each other."
It's appreciation, not appropriation.
That's the whole point. That's why when Will Witt was with Prager doing the things and he was like, "You like my Chinese hat?" The Chinese people were like, "Yeah, I like your hat." Like the whole point is we're supposed to blend and use different things. And it's just like so exhausting. But then the left is like, they've just taken it too far at this point because anything that makes you a victim now makes you special. And then when you're a victim, you get attention. You don't get a positive attention when you're on the other side. But I was like seeing that yesterday and I was like, God bless this girl, just trying so hard to be perfect and please everyone.
Emily,
well, at this point, you can't please anyone.
No, she's probably your neighbor. This is how it is out there in California, right? This is you. These are your people.
Yeah, actually, she's sitting right at a camera right now. That's the thing.
It is funny, though, because half the time I sit at like a restaurant or coffee shop. If I'm just speaking and being myself, I do notice people will move. And this woman, like older white woman, of course, was like having a mental breakdown next to me at Erewhon one time. And I looked at her. I was like, honestly, this is free speech. If you don't enjoy it and it really upsets you to this level, you can basically get the F away from me. And she just was like, oh, and like took her stuff and moved. And I was like, do you guys not have enough? You guys have way too much time. For how expensive it is to live here, you got to get another job.
Especially in Erewhon.
It's at Erewhon, yeah.
Yes, you can get in that place.
You don't have to spend $28 on a smoothie. Go to Smoothie King, $6.99. All right, here we go. Let's move from crazy California to my favorite place in the world, where actually 3 of us live, although I think 2 of us are here at the moment. And yes, I'm talking about the free state of Florida. And there's just so much goodness here. And yes, we do talk about the negative things all the time because we're hit with the lies, we're hit with the negativity. The world is crazy. But Florida is not just flourishing. It is just the foundational place for the future of America. I firmly believe that. And check out this tweet. This is about Republican voter registration in Miami-Dade County, which used to be the bluest of the blue. In Florida. Breaking news, Republicans have taken the voter registration lead in Miami-Dade County, Florida's most populous county, for the first time ever. So Republicans red are now up 34% with over 460,000. Democrats are at about 32%. Green, I guess green is, what is green? Is green, green must be independents, I guess. That seems a little crazy. But in any event, Republicans now lead by basically 24 thousand votes, and there's about 1.4 million people overall that are registered here. And to your point, Emily, about going to, Erewhon and getting the nasty looks, like when I left LA by the end, and that was at the height of COVID when everything was particularly sensitive and crazy, I would go to the store and I'd get nasty looks. And I also, I was bad about the mask, or not bad, I was good about the mask, but they thought I was bad about the mask. So there was COVID hate, there was hate just because of my politics and everything else. Where then I moved to Miami, which when I got here about 3+ years ago, it was still blue. It's becoming red, and now it has become super red. And it's free, it's flourishing, it's safe. Literally every time I see a police officer in my neighborhood, it's usually when I'm walking my dog, but I always make sure to stop and say hi to them and tell them my name and I live over there. And there's just a culture that things work. And I guess that's the way I want to kick this to you guys. Like, one of the lines that I love from DeSantis, I don't know if it's a DeSantis line originally, but he says it a lot, is that decline is a choice. And I feel like in most places, people, it's not that they choose it specifically, they just let it be chosen for them. And in Florida, we seem to be doing it right. So Sage, I'll kick it to you because you moved down here recently too. You were in a blue state of Connecticut, and you're not in Florida at the moment, but you're here. You see what's going on. We wandered through Coconut Grove a couple months ago, and it was your first time there. And you were like, it was like we got to heaven. You were just like, I can't believe this. Look at this. And it's a great place, but like, no homeless people, no threat, no nothing. It's other than freedom and happy people and functional commercial success and all that, and sunshine.
Yeah, lot of sunshine. I remember that. I'll never forget that walk with you because I was like, oh, you don't have to live that way up in other parts of the country, and it is a choice. And then I'm like, wait, don't tell everybody. I don't want everybody coming our way, and that's why everything's gone.
I know that's my thing now.
I will say I'm up the road from you in Broward County, one of the few counties that remain blue. So we need some focus on Broward County. There's a lot of crap going on up there. But honestly, what was it? Was it 22 in the midterms or 2020 when Miami-Dade turned red for the first time in forever?
Miami turned in 22. That was during DeSantis's reelection. Yeah.
Yes.
So he won by 20 points, and then that caused the whole thing to flip. Yeah.
Which was such a massive accomplishment. It was shocking. Of all counties in the free state of Florida, that's the one that turns. It was incredible, and it gave me such hope. And at the time, I owned property in Broward County, but I wasn't there full time. And now I am full time for a very good reason. When I see those numbers, it does give me hope. I really, though, believe that sometimes it just takes people slowing down. You know who I talk to a lot about this whenever I'm in an Uber? And thanks to Dave Rubin, I've upgraded on my Ubers now. He yelled at me enough to say, okay, stop doing Uber X, upgrade it, girl. Come on.
Sage Steele, legendary broadcaster.
No.
Sage Steele was driving around in regular Uber X's. And I was like, lady, let's get you in a black car. What are you doing?
Hi. Frugal. I know. He literally yelled at me about it. So I'm improving. But that's kind of a litmus test for me is I talk to the Uber drivers who are never, ever from America. They've come here from so many other different countries, and they have turned, whether it's from African nations or certainly a lot from the Caribbean and the islands, and every single one they're truck people now. And I always ask them why. I guess this is the reporter in me. And the list is very long, but I think it's all the same reasons why most of us are friends in this way and at least agree in this way, because it is about common sense. And when people stop and slow down and you don't have to do much homework, a little bit of homework, you realize the lies that have been told to you and that maybe you can have a better life if you vote the other way. It's been a beautiful thing to watch. But again, I'm like, I don't want too many people to find out. But how Ron DeSantis has chosen to run this state has changed everything. It's beautiful.
Well, Russell, you are a new Floridian, too. You do keep making the point that you're not quite one of us, but we consider you an American at this point, and you live in the redneck Riviera over there on the other side, on the west coast of Florida. But what's interesting to me is that last week I was in Austin, Texas, and Austin is like the blue spot of a very red Texas. And I hadn't been to Austin probably since before COVID, so it'd been maybe 4 years, something like that. It was a homeless zombie apocalypse. There was fentanyl or whatever they're doing now. I don't even know that it's fentanyl anymore. But multiple times while my producer Phoenix and I were walking down the street when we were going to dinner or podcast or whatever, we would cross the street because you don't want to walk through that melee of what looked like human zombies. And I hadn't been around that for a while. And it's one of those moments when I'm like, oh, I live around goodness and I'm damn well going to do everything I can to make sure that it stays this way.
I think you and Phoenix should have walked right into that melee, that wandering zombie horde, and livened them up. I mean, aren't you in a way their prophet? Aren't you the man that's made the transition from red to blue? That there must be some fundamental and defining principles in those little blue, red and green dots that mean the transition from this nihilism and despair that you're describing in Red Austin to what I think is the utopia phase of Florida. Maybe Florida's in that moment in pre-South Africa before the reignition of racial tension. Like me, the bit I live in is, like you say, Dave, redneck Riviera. It's all trucks, man, and like sort of people saying things like, I scorched all the skin off the hog. Like people do things like boil hogs. And I heard someone say, I see a bear, it will smut black. And these people, they're not like the Floridian Peninsula Floridians. This is like redneck territory. You can go the wrong way on a boat down a bayou and you find yourself somewhere marvelous. And what I'm amazed by since living here is because I was coached by UK media to see Trump and MAGA and American nationalism as fundamentally and essentially racist. What's amazing is to me all these people that are Republican, conservative, Christian, and totally open-hearted, generous, socially loving, down for it. That their republicanism means independence, not negligence, voluntary community, not enforced or imposed community, real values, not the impersonation of values. I didn't know those people existed because the media never highlights that. It doesn't highlight good, charitable, decent people that don't care about your race or your color, just care about your values. I love it up here, man. It's like a different language, different folks, but I don't think it's your city thing. What you lot have got.
Emily, I mean, so you're still in LA, and like I really was losing my mind at the end. I know it's gotten a little bit better from what I understand, or at least from the times I've been back. But I mean, you already illustrated the thing that happens to you at Erewhon.
I mean, you guys will hate me for this. Granted, I'm a little bit of a psycho. I love arguing with people in public. I love I would be so bored if everyone was like me.
Young guys, she still likes that thing.
I would kind of lose my mind, but I will say that I'm from Orange County. You go to Orange County, it's an hour away. Newport Beach is literally perfect. I think it is the most perfect place in the country. Why? Because it's ran by Republicans. It's extremely safe, clean, good families. Most people are Republican, conservative, Christian, all these different things. With LA, it's like, this is my home. This is where my heart is. I treat the politics here like cancer. I am one of the few people that are like willing to lose everything and have the balls to speak out. Because if there's ever a place in the world worth saving, to me, it's this place. And I do not want to let this evil and these policies spread everywhere else. So I will live here, stay here, and be a voice for the people who can't have voices because they have jobs and children to take care of. And I respect that. But I tell people, I'm like, by my dead cold hands, I will never leave here and I will fight for it. And I'm so proud to see how many Republicans in California turned out. There are so many Republicans here and they're finding a voice. We have a new district attorney. He's prosecuting crime. Common sense is returning. And I'm very, very proud and happy to live here, and I'm staying here and fighting no matter what happens.
Do you think it's going to make a difference, though? Because I remember living in Connecticut, a fully blue state, and it's like, why do I even vote? And I did it because that's what of course I'm going to do that, but I knew it was never going to turn. Do you feel that way about California and where you are?
With the people I surround myself with, like, we do believe it's turning. Like, we really, really, really do. We believe that, and we see it. We see the common sense returning, and we see the policies changing. Because the crazy thing here is it took Democrats literally getting their lives and homes burned to the ground for them to wake up and go, this is really, really bad. Like, I've lost everything. And I'm like, look, if it took your home burning to the ground, I'm glad you woke up. I'm sorry you had to come to this.
They used to say a conservative is just a liberal mugged by reality. Apparently a conservative is just a liberal who's had his house burned down.
Yeah. And then, and then all of a sudden, now they're mad at Karen Bass. And then guess whose property survived? Caruso. And I'm like, imagine if Caruso ran and actually won. How your house probably would have been saved. So yes, these people are facing the consequences of voting against themselves and their best interests and other people's well-being as well. And now it's finally slapping them in the face. So yes, I have to live with a little bit of hope. I do enjoy living around these psychopaths once in a while. Creativity-wise, it's great for me. And I do believe in this state. And I plan on staying here and fighting the good fight until maybe I can't one day. But we'll see.
The Magic Castle is cool. Is that still open?
I like that.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff. We have so much great food. It's so healthy. People are happy. The sun's out. Like, I don't know. Maybe I am just a liberal feminist. I don't know. What am I? I love it here.
Sage, when you moved down here after all the time in Connecticut, and you had the corporate gig in Connecticut, and then you go independent and you move to the free state of Florida. It's just all of those things at once, right? Like, it's just like, it feels like, I always call this the other promised land. And that's what it feels like down here. I never meet anyone that's down here like, I can't take it anymore. Like, nobody. And yet everywhere you go, again, Austin last week, there were a lot of people like Jason Calacanis from All In Podcast. And we go outside the hotel and then there's just homeless people everywhere. And it's just like that sort of juxtaposition. It's just crazy.
It is. But
I think he's a billionaire. I'm not sure. He's doing okay, one way or another.
One of the things that gives me so much hope, again, glass half full all the time, is when you look at the numbers. And for example, you mentioned earlier Miami-Dade County and how it's red now. 69% of Miami-Dade County is the people there say they're identify whatever. I hate that word. Hispanic. I mean, that is the vast majority. You talk about diversity. It is a true melting pot in Miami. And so to see it turn red with that demographic, to me, again, speaks volumes. But every single person I've met down there, I guess most, they're there by choice. They're not natives. People have realized how tough it is. And Emily, so many from California, like Dave Rubin, and to me, it breaks my heart because to me, California is the best state in the union as far as all the different things it offers, right? Whether it's the redwood trees up north or the beach or the ocean, the desert, it's awesome and such diversity. Maybe now, because like you said, with the fires, et cetera, if it took that, I don't know what's wrong with you to make you figure out what's going on and what's not going on, what's not being handled well. But in Florida, they get it. And people are choosing to change their lives. That's something I do tell people, whether it's Florida, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Nevada, whether it's Texas. I know it's hard to leave family and it's not for everybody, right? But there are options and you don't have to stay in it and stay miserable and pay high taxes and stay really, really cold up in the Northeast either. To each his own, but it's been a blessing. The best decision I made personally and professionally.
Russell, Sage only moved, like 800 miles south. You moved across the pond. I mean, do you miss anything? Bring us home here. We got the whoosh sound. Do you miss anything besides your tea and your crumpets?
No, yeah, of course I miss the tea and the crumpets and the Prince Harry and the people being put in jail for Facebook posts and the refusal to investigate grooming gangs and the mobilization of the forces of evil continually. I do miss that, but I just love it here so much. I've never felt more American than just listening to that appraisal of American states by Americans. I was really I really got an interesting insight into your world and your geography and the different identities of those states. And I also got such a pang when you mentioned the Magic Castle, but I couldn't think of a single other reference of anything in LA. And I thought, that is it. If we can just move the Magic Castle, that's California down, the Redwoods.
I once sat next to leftist lunatic Susan Sarandon at the Magic Castle as we watched a woman get split in half. So you see, there's something there.
Additional context.
I'm like, wait.
Oh, wait, that wasn't the Magic Castle. And that wasn't Susan Sarandon.
I think that's the fix. Cut in half. I think split. Maybe it's the word split. I don't know what that.
I now hand it over to broadcasting legend and uber black using, because she is a black woman, they have to use the uber black.
I have to.
Sage Steele.
It's racist if I don't use this, right? Okay, one of my favorite stories this week has been Jake Tapper just getting crushed. Does that make me a bad person that I have taken
No.
joy in seeing him not go down in flames, because he's actually getting richer based on us talking about him so much, and I struggle with that. But my little segment here for the next couple of minutes is about media and trying to build trust back up. We talked about this before. Mainstream media, I think it's close to being dead. But maybe if we have the Jake Tappers of the world, like we said earlier, come out and apologize and begin, the Scarboroughs of the world begin to be accountable, maybe there is hope. I've always had so much hope and love and respect and idolatry for Megyn Kelly and what she did, because I think Jake Tapper, that was the first stop he made, wasn't it? When the press tour for his book began was on Megyn Kelly's show. Oh my gosh, it was 2 hours. It was so uncomfortably awesome. And one of my girlfriends, whenever we had a crazy moment at work or on a phone call, we called them ass sweating moments. That was an ass sweating 2-hour podcast with Megyn Kelly and Jake Tapper. And I love that she prefaced it by saying, okay, we're friends. And I don't believe you did your job. I think you failed the American people. Here's an example. Take a look if you missed it.
Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay,
I get what you're saying, but this minimizes it too, because it was more than saying stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down. It was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book. We knew and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter, and there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now, with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none. But you did.
Russell, what's your thought? Because it doesn't surprise us that Megyn Kelly grilled him. She is a true journalist that defines the word when not many people are willing to do that anymore. But when you saw the way that she went after him, no holds barred, and his reaction, what was going through your mind?
When she used the term ecosphere, I recognized that we're part of that ecosphere. And that felt like a kind of catharsis to watch someone from, in this broad sense, our camp speaking to someone from their camp, i.e. legacy versus independent media, with no other attempt to classify it. It was to see someone confront them and go, no, look, here you are saying this then. And additionally to know, Sage, that she préceded it by saying we're friends and stuff. That's probably that extra layer of conviviality that was required. But it was like issuing what you needed to hear said as someone who like watched that debate or the various times that he wandered off. Because obviously, in the same way that Dave made the point that the South Africa apartheid conversation pertains to American racial dynamics, that conversation could be seen as the catharsis for the entire space. Like she could have gone on, what was you saying in COVID? And what were you saying about that? Because in a way, it just captures the feeling that independent media is born out of, that we need someone, Sage, to say, this is what you said, and this is what you're saying now. Does this mean, you could stitch together a whole globe of that at this point?
Yeah, I'm glad, Sage, you didn't gloss over the part where she mentioned that they're friends, because that's not easy to do. Right. We're all in a world now where we cross over with all sorts of people. Like we meet athletes who we love, we meet politicians who you may like or whatever. You go to dinners with people, like all of that stuff. And it can really cross the wires. And it's a hard job sometimes to navigate that. And, I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm glad that Megyn does. I tell people what I think for a living. I do a news show, but I'm not out there like, on the ground reporting news. People are reporting. I see what goes on in the world, and then I communicate that back to people. So I hold myself to a very high standard, but I don't call myself a journalist when I'm doing it. I'm telling you my opinion, and you might agree and you might not. But for her to just even do what she did while trying to maintain some level of friendship, I think it's an honorable thing to do on top of the work that she did. But I would also say that the thing with Jake that I don't understand is, did he not think this was coming? Because the second the book was announced, everybody was like, come on, man, you got to be kidding me. So think about it. Now, the book was announced, I think, in like November or so, maybe right around the election, somewhere around there. You guys know how the publishing world works. Like the fact that this book even got out so quickly tells you it was already prepackaged and ready to go. And who knows who really wrote it and all that kind of stuff. Okay, fine. But when Jake was presented with, like, was it his idea? Like, I'll be the guy to write the book about the Biden scandal? Like, did he not think this was going to happen? Or did the agent that presented it, hey, Jake, someone's going to write a book about this. We can get you a pretty nice advance. You want it to be you. Did nobody around him, his wife, say, Jake, you've been on CNN for a couple of years and you didn't do much. So I've just never in my life seen someone be on a book tour and be getting crushed for the very premise of the book like this. I remember when Charles Barkley had an autobiography come out. It was co-authored by somebody, probably like right after he retired. So this is maybe around 2000 or something. And he was on a TV show and they're just asking him about all the anecdotes in the book. And he clearly had no idea because he didn't write it. And finally, in the middle of the interview, maybe we could find the clip. In the middle of it, he's like, yeah, I didn't write this. I don't know. I don't remember any of that. And then for another one, he was like, yeah, I was drunk. I don't know. So it's like, what did you think? What was going to happen to you? Because Jake basically wrote a book and he made a little bit of money, but he burned whatever credibility he had left. And I'll just say one last thing, which is that Jake, I don't think Jake's a terrible human being. Like, I think there are some of those guys over there, like a Stelter or a Costa or Cuomo even, that were just awful across the board on everything. I don't think that about Jake. And I think in a weird way, that's working against him right now, because when people are just kind of awful all the time, it's just easy. And I think people see him as like, he doesn't strike me as an awful human, but when you see someone then do something that's so obviously fraudulent, it's kind of like the Scarborough thing, although I would put him more in the awful category. It's just tougher to deal with.
You know what? I agree. It's one thing if you are a little slanted in your reporting and here or there, but it was so egregious. And the way that he went after Laura Trump, that infamous interview now back out there, and just the scolding that so many of us received from him during COVID. And like Emily said, the gaslighting. So Emily, I'll wrap this topic up with, I want to know, should we buy that book? Like, I'm curious about more of it, but like, I don't want to give him a penny. What do you say?
I wouldn't. I just feel, I'm not going to buy it, but also, do these people write their own books? When's the last time someone was like really writing their own book? What was the woman I talked on Newsmax about it? She put in the book, she like shot her dog in the face, and then I was like, and then they asked her about it, and she was
Kirsty
like,
Noem. Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, come on, you didn't read the book? Like, someone who wrote the book for you and worked with you. First of all, someone who wrote this, I think, hated you.
Well, that's the thing. The guy Alex Thompson, who was in that earlier clip, I'm guessing he probably wrote it, but they needed a bigger name to attach to it. So but that's why it's funny. You watch Alex Thompson sitting next to him in all these interviews. No one's grilling him because nobody cares about him. Everyone's grilling Jake, and it's like, man, you guys, this is a deal made in hell.
He's going to get a cut, and he doesn't have to take all the heat.
He did probably do the majority of the work, but it was fascinating to watch that dynamic. I'm like picturing how he feels staring at the camera like this on a Zoom with Jake Tapper getting crushed for 30 minutes straight. Megyn's like, I'll get to you in a minute, Alex. But Jake, here we go. This does give me hope, though. Megyn, someone by the name of Dave Rubin. Like, there's so many people out there who are fearless and continue to make me say, all right, we're going to be okay. My favorite person right now that's on network television daily is Scott Jennings on CNN. What he does on a daily freaking basis to educate the people on the panel is a beautiful thing. Here, for those of you who don't know, shame on you, but here's a little example.
They were convicted. Hold on a second. They were convicted. Maybe they were convicted of very serious crimes.
I'll read it.
The penalty that the Trump administration says is appropriate potentially could be death.
I mean,
right?
I'll read it. Sex offenders, homicide, kidnapping, murder in the first degree, battery, larceny, cocaine possession, murder, robbery, DUI, child sex abuse, and sex assault on someone with a mental illness. The Sudan is too good for these people. And I'm not sure any other country would take them.
But what about their home country?
I'm not sure they'll take them. Would you take that person back?
How do you know that?
Well, one of them came from Cuba.
No.
I have to say,
how do you know that?
I don't care what we do with them. These are heinous, violent criminals, and they do not need to be here. That's all I know.
So let me just play. This is
okay. That is a glimpse. I mean, it's a nothing clip compared to what he does every single day, especially on that show with Abby Phillips. And it's just, he crushes people, and it's a beautiful thing. So, gosh, I don't know though. going into a lion's den like that every single day. I'm not like you, Emily. I don't like to go fight with people. I can do it. I've done it quite well a few times, but on a daily basis, I don't know how he does it. I believe he's the only reason why people are watching CNN. Rubin, what's your reaction to what Scott Jennings is doing for the mainstream media? Maybe keeping them alive.
I can do this one real quick because we play clips of him on my show every day. The amazing thing about this guy is they have so many lunatics and partisans and racists and just general whack jobs that are analyzing over there that I think they basically were like, can you find me the most average white guy imaginable? Can he speak in complete sentences? Does his hair look like the most average white hair you can imagine? Does his suit fit in the most average white way a suit could fit? Is his temperament the most average temperament you could come up with? And we will sit him there and he will just respond in the most average, cogent, clean, simple way to crazy people. And somehow that was the magic. That was the thing that now everybody, when you ask them, well, who do you like on Main Street? Everyone's like Scott Jennings, as if he's like the most multi-dimensional talented. He can tap dance and he can sing and he can swim and dance, and all it is that he is a person who is a decent human being saying basically decent things. And that's it. And that's all it takes, I guess, to be a star in mainstream media.
I feel like that's not enough credit. He's literally one of the funniest people I've ever seen on TV. I watch it, like clips of him on TikTok, boom, every second. And I am like in tears because he is so sassy with them. It is amazing. He'll be like, actually. And you're like, protect the man.
It's like a combination of those two things, because in one way, he does look exactly like normal and unremarkable in an almost archetypal or parodic way. But that clip that he posted after his interaction with the lady when the topic was Biden's evidential cognitive decline, he said, well, why doesn't Trump have a test? And he was like, that's your answer. I felt that in that moment that he was doing the ultimate postmodern thing of being very aware of his audience watching in a forum that is designed for another audience. I could see, and in his post, in fact, he put an Anchorman meme into it. We are laughing. He referenced a movie while he was doing the news. So you're right, Emily. What he's doing is in some ways pretty sophisticated, because he knows that because of the way media functions now, the audience that presumably are not the dominant intended audience, this being CNN, will find him. And he is sort of self-aware. And for a plain looking or deliberately plain presented guy, he's got something sort of extraordinary in his character and humor.
I love his draw.
To be clear, I don't mean that as a shot to him. I mean it as it's all due credit. It's like he's just he doesn't come across as a showman. Yeah, there's some funny stuff there now and again, but it's the reason that people are watching the guy is because he's just telling the truth over and over again.
Yep. He's so smart. He's so educated. I love the Kentucky drawl that comes through there. He worked in the Bush administration, and he's brilliant. So I just think that is the only reason to watch CNN at this point. So he gives me hope. I had to give Scott Jennings a shout out there. I want to end on a little sports vibe here, which I know, Dave Rubin, you'll appreciate. Emily, do you like sports?
No.
Didn't think so.
Sorry, Formula One. That's it, though.
Okay. Russell Brand, you know what basketball is in America.
He likes cricket.
They pick up that ball, do they? These confounded men. They pick it up and hurl it through a hoop. No, that is not cricket. Yeah,
come on, Sage, I'm with you.
I like very sort of world sports, like football where you kick it with your feet. That football. I like that. I care about you lot, and I care about your culture.
Okay. Thank you for caring. And I love the fact that we had some more laughs and smiles at the White House this week as the Florida Gators, that's a basketball team in your state, Russell. They won the national championship a couple of months ago, early April, and they went to the White House. And before I showed the video, I want to remind everybody that this has become a controversial thing if Donald Trump's in office, right? To go to the White House after you win a championship. It is tradition regardless of who's in office. Just a month ago, the Philadelphia Eagles coming off their second Super Bowl win in like 7 years. They went, some of them. One that did not go was the MVP of the Super Bowl and their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. And there was drama and controversy about that. There's always drama. The Golden State Warriors NBA teams almost never do. The Florida Gators did. Look at this video.
Tell me the great ones. I only want to deal with greatness. Not this one, not so much, but that one right here.
I loved it. Again, the reason I was a sportscaster, had a dream of doing it and did it for 30 years is because of the diversity in sport. And it doesn't matter, color, whatever. Everybody was there yesterday having fun with Donald Trump in that Oval Office and over on the east side, the room where he made the big announcement and the jersey presentation, et cetera. It's a beautiful thing. Gives me hope. Do you think, Dave Rubin, my fellow sports expert, that the tide is beginning to turn? I heard the swoop. The tide's beginning to turn and more teams are going to start to go back again.
Oh, yeah, they're going back. I think the day of the Steve Kerr hysteria, Greg Popovich, I have Trump derangement syndrome and I'm a basketball coach and I'm not going to, honor the White House is completely absurd. I will end with this as my closing statement. It's slightly related to basketball. You guys know I busted up my knee and I got stem cells and I played for the first time this week. So I'm playing last night, 3 hours in. It's 90 degrees in Miami right now. Even at night, I come home, I'm disgusting. Like I wanted to burn my clothes. I jump into the pool. I get out of the pool. I realize I don't have a towel and I just see a crumbled up towel, like right outside the pool. Grab it, put it to my face. My son, Luke, God bless him, love this kid. He had puked his brains out, caught a little stomach bug at the park, and I wiped puke all over my face.
Oh my God.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. I came in, I gave him a big hug and move on with life,
Oh, the visual. He's what, 2? I would ground him for leaving that.
Yeah, I'm going to ground him. No more milk for you.
We had a tree frog in our home, a tree frog. A tree frog came into our house. It communicated with us. It jumped around. It was spellbound. That's just to bring some domestic beauty and frivolity back into the Floridian scene after that vomit-drenched rag was applied to the perfect forehead of one of Florida's most handsome men.
Emily, bring us home with something strange.
Sorry, that completely threw me off. Something strange.
Puke frog, what do you got?
Oh my gosh, the new person, the guy who's like the head of like the WEF, that looks like his skin suit is like off and his eyes like black. That guy literally, if demons walk the planet, that guy's for sure one. That guy's actually terrifying looking. So not excited to see what work he's going to do in the future.
Sage, Rubin? What are you doing this weekend? I'm sure with your fabulous new fiance.
Yes. Dave says hi to David over there. He's waving. We are currently in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm giving a commencement speech at a high school in a couple of hours. And then we're getting on a plane. We're going to Napa because hello, Bottle Rock. This is like my 4th time going. It's like the Napa version of Coachella, right, Emily? And it is amazing, phenomenal. So I may not ever see you again because I love California. No, forget it. I will come back because I cannot live in your state, but it'll be a fun weekend.
It's been fun, guys. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, take care.